In this episode of The Lucy Show, Lucy, played by Lucille Ball, once again turns a simple situation at the bank into a full-blown comedic disaster after becoming convinced that she has finally found a way to impress Mr. Mooney and prove she is capable of handling serious responsibility. And the whole thing begins when Lucy overhears a casual conversation about an upcoming bank-related presentation involving clients and immediately assumes that she is being indirectly trusted with something important, even though nobody actually assigns her anything. But Lucy, being Lucy, decides that waiting for instructions is unnecessary and instead takes it upon herself to prepare everything in advance, which in her mind means reorganizing, redesigning, and dramatically improving the entire setup without understanding any of the actual requirements. And from that moment, the episode starts building its familiar rhythm of controlled chaos as Lucy moves through the office with unstoppable enthusiasm, confidently giving orders, rearranging schedules, and inserting herself into every small detail she can find. While Mary Jane quickly realizes the situation is already slipping out of control, but struggles to intervene because Lucy is operating at maximum speed and maximum confidence, and every attempt to slow her down only gets interpreted as minor resistance that Lucy thinks she can overcome with even more energy. And as she continues her preparations, small mistakes begin accumulating in the background, miscommunications spread between employees, materials get moved to incorrect locations, and important instructions become distorted as Lucy keeps adjusting them based on her own assumptions rather than the actual plan. Yet she remains completely convinced that everything is improving, which creates a strong comedic contrast because the audience can clearly see the situation deteriorating while Lucy experiences it as progress. And this gap between perception and reality becomes the core engine of the episode's humor, especially as Lucy starts improvising solutions on top of her original mistakes, leading to increasingly complicated chains of corrections where every fix generates to new problems. And before long, the entire office is operating under Lucy's confusing system of half-understood ideas and rapid-fire changes, forcing employees to constantly adapt to instructions that keep shifting every few minutes. And as the presentation time approaches, the tension rises because all of Lucy's hidden errors are now stacked on top of each other like a fragile structure ready to collapse. But instead of slowing down, she accelerates her efforts, believing that success is just one more adjustment away. And this leads to a series of frantic physical comedy moments where Lucy is running between rooms, hiding evidence of mistakes, redirecting confused people away from each other, and attempting to maintain the illusion that everything is perfectly under control, even as she visibly struggles to keep track of her own plan. And Mr. Mooney becomes increasingly suspicious as he notices small inconsistencies, but cannot immediately trace them back to Lucy's involvement, which creates tension mixed with humor as he tries to investigate while Lucy constantly narrowly avoids being caught. And when the actual presentation finally begins, everything immediately falls apart in spectacular fashion as multiple misunderstandings collide at once. Employees appear in the wrong places, materials are missing or mislabeled, instructions contradict each other in real time, and Lucy is forced into rapid improvisation to salvage the situation while simultaneously making it worse, resulting in a whirlwind of chaotic interactions where she tries to maintain professionalism while everything around her descends into confusion. And the climax becomes a fast-paced sequence of comedic disasters where Lucy is literally juggling explanations, objects, and people while insisting that everything is going according to plan, despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. And eventually, the full truth becomes obvious to everyone as it becomes clear that Lucy's well-intentioned interference created the entire mess from the beginning, leaving her standing in the center of the chaos trying to explain herself while still refusing to fully admit defeat, instead shifting into her familiar pattern of rationalizing everything as almost successful. blaming small details rather than acknowledging the larger failure, which completely exhausts Mr. Mooney as he realizes once again that Lucy's confidence is completely immune to reality. And yet, despite the frustration, there remains a sense of warmth because Lucy never acts out of malice, only enthusiasm and a desire to help, even if that desire consistently leads to disaster. And as the situation slowly calms down and the office returns to normal order, Lucy briefly appears reflective but quickly regains her optimism, already spotting another opportunity nearby and lighting up with excitement as she begins forming a new plan that everyone around her immediately recognizes as the start of yet another inevitable catastrophe, bringing the episode to a close with that classic rhythm that defines the Lucy Show, where chaos is temporary, but Lucy's confidence is permanent and always ready to restart the cycle all over again. And even after everything is finally cleaned up and the bank returns to its usual routine, Lucy still cannot resist reinterpreting the entire disaster as a learning experience that actually shows how much potential her ideas had. And this mindset immediately puts everyone back on edge because they recognize that whenever Lucy reframes a total failure as almost success, it usually means she is about to try again with even more confidence than before. And sure enough, she starts walking around the office casually pointing out what she believes were the successful parts of her plan, completely ignoring the fact that those same parts were also responsible for most of the confusion. And she begins explaining her logic to anyone who will listen, speaking with such certainty that some employees momentarily wonder if they somehow misunderstood the entire situation, which is exactly how Lucy unintentionally spreads a second wave of confusion without doing anything physical at all, just through enthusiastic storytelling. And Mary Jane quickly realizes the danger escalating again because Lucy is now rebuilding the disaster in people's minds as a misunderstood success, which leads to awkward situations where co-workers start arguing about what actually happened versus what Lucy is claiming happened. And the office once again becomes divided into conflicting versions of reality, all originating from Lucy's overly optimistic reinterpretation of events and Mr. Mooney, who had just begun recovering from the original chaos, walks back into the bank only to realize the situation is becoming mentally unstable again, even though nothing physical is being destroyed this time. And that realization hits him even harder because it means Lucy's influence doesn't even require action anymore to cause problems. And as he tries to shut down her explanations, Lucy takes it as encouragement and immediately escalates her thinking into improvement mode, suggesting that next time the entire presentation should be even more elaborate, more organized, and more efficient, despite the fact that efficiency was exactly what failed catastrophically last time. And before anyone can stop her, she starts drafting new ideas on paper, reorganizing schedules again, and mentally rebuilding the entire system she just destroyed, while insisting that the problem was not the concept, but the execution, which becomes increasingly funny because she is essentially trying to redesign the exact same system that just collapsed moments earlier. And naturally, this leads to another chain reaction as people panic at the idea of Lucy revisiting the same project. Employees start hiding documents preemptively. Mary Jane quietly tries to block her from accessing supplies, and Mr. Mooney prepares himself emotionally for the next inevitable disaster. And the comedy builds through this slow realization that Lucy is completely immune to negative outcomes, because every failure she experiences instantly transforms into motivation rather than discouragement. And that means there is no natural stopping point to her ideas, only escalation. And the episode leans into that by showing Lucy becoming more and more excited as she refines her vision, completely unaware that everyone around her is reacting with growing fear instead of admiration. And eventually her enthusiasm reaches a point where she begins physically rearranging the office again just to test improvements, which triggers immediate chaos as people scramble to keep up with her sudden changes. And even though nothing major has officially started yet, The office is already sliding back toward disorder simply because Lucy is thinking out loud and acting on every thought instantly, and Mr. Mooney finally reaches the exhausted conclusion that the only real solution is damage control rather than prevention, because stopping Lucy entirely seems impossible. And in the final moments, Lucy proudly announces that she has figured out exactly how to fix everything next time. A statement that causes visible dread in everyone who hears it, especially because they know next time is never far away. And the episode closes on that perfect looping sense of comedic inevitability that defines the Lucy Show, where order is always temporary. Lucy's confidence is always permanent, and chaos is always just one idea away from restarting again.